Oh, Hilton stay, your beds are soft and cozy. No lumpy couch, no stiff futon, no shower line at crack of dawn. Oh, Hilton stay.
When you want holiday comfort you can count on, it matters where you stay. Enjoy comfortable rooms and friendly service when you stay with Hilton instead. Save up to 25% this season when you book with Hilton. Hilton for the stay. Terms apply.
With new, gentler scented Clorox disinfecting wipes, clean finally smells as good as it feels. On everything from lamps to ceiling fans. Even on your kid's toy shark. Oh, ouch. Clorox disinfecting wipes. Now available in crisp lemon. Find it on Amazon. Clorox. Clean feels good.
This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. Black Friday Game Day on Prime is an epic day of live sports. It all starts at 9 a.m. Eastern with the Capital One Skins game. Then, Black Friday football returns when the Bears take on the Eagles at 3 p.m. And it culminates with the final night of Emirates NBA Cup Group play with Bucks Knicks at 7 p.m. and Mavs Lakers at 10 p.m. Black Friday Game Day, only on Prime.
The Freddy Fazbear box just dropped at Popeyes for $7.99, and it's scary good. Garlic palm tenders and cheesy bites with marinara sauce. Upgrade to the deluxe box for $12.99 and get a 20-ounce drink in a cupcake cup. Dig in
before it's too late.
Try the Freddy Fazbear Crunch menu, now at Popeyes. See Five Nights at Freddy's 2, only in theaters. Love that chicken from Popeyes. Limited time at participating U.S. restaurants. Prices may vary.
In Walmart's Who'Knewville, everyone ready their cart. Amazing Black Friday deals are about to start. Online and in the app, such great deals to explore. Everything you love from tech, toys, and more. The days to save and the ones to remember. It's only the 25th to the 30th of November. Set your alarms. Don't miss out. These deals are epic, without a doubt. The Who's are all ready, but are you? Walmart Black Friday deals await. Who knew?
Welcome to Postgame Live with LJ and myself, Eagles Eric, kind of to recap the game. And as you guys join here, we appreciate any questions you send in. So, LJ, we never got to host a show together. So I'm just curious, yes to this game, but also the overall outlook for the season. Where is your head at?
The season's on a brink. This is 2023 all over again. When the defense was a problem, started out with Desai, then they went to Patricia and it got worse. Now, I'm not saying if the Eagles make a change at offensive coordinator that it's going to get worse, but something needs to change. Kevin Patullo is way in over his head. I've said it on the Kelly Green Hour time and time again that he was given the keys to a Bugatti and he's never driven before. And that's what's happening. With all the pieces that you have on this offense, you should not be struggling to score points. And that's exactly what is happening. They're way too inconsistent. They're way too undisciplined. Too many penalties. Now, it was ridiculous that some of the penalties that were called on the Eagles, Dallas receivers got away with a lot worse the last couple of weeks, and no flags were called on them. The PI on A.J. Brown was ridiculous. You still can't put yourself in that position. The Eagles haven't been playing good enough football over the course of the season on the offensive side of the ball to think that you're going to get those calls. And it's just this season, it started out great. Remember, 2023, we were 10-1, lost 6 of our last 7. Now 8-4. Dallas, who you could have put in your rearview mirror if you beat them on Sunday, is right there. They say objects are closer than they appear. Dallas is right there. If Dallas beats Detroit next week, I don't know if they're going to lose the rest of the season. I hate to say that. I hate Dallas so much. But the way they're playing, they look so much better. Jerry Jones went out and got pieces to help his defense. They're getting healthier. Their offense is playing at a high level. And when you look at the Eagles, the defense is on the field too long. I'm not putting this loss on the defense. They were bound to give up points. They were bound to give up yards because the offense can't sustain drives. And that's exactly what is happening, is continuing to happen. And we have 10 days before the LA game next Monday night. If they don't fire or demote Kevin Patullo by Monday, they are satisfied with the status quo. And this team, if they make the playoffs, is one and done.
Yeah, and it is interesting, like, how do you handle it? I think, to some degree, if you make a rash decision like that,
So I see what you're saying.
it's make it like you look like a less attractive place for candidates.
I don't think it's a rash decision. He's had like it's week 13, and this offense has not gotten better. I mean, I get it. Patullo's been here since Sirianni has been here. He's given him a lot of leeway. But we're at this point that you're going to blow the division for the second time in 3 years. And I get that Sirianni won the Super Bowl. It was the head coach of a Super Bowl winning team last year, but his job could be on the line. We fired Doug Peterson 2 years after we won the Super Bowl. Lori and Roseman are not shy about making changes when changes need to be made. And we're at the point now that Sirianni's never going to be able to hire an OC again. Brian Johnson was a failure. Kellen Moore was a Roseman and Lori hire. And now Patullo is a failure. It would be nice if they can go out and hire somebody like Fangio, get an older offensive coordinator who has no desire to be a head coach again. But that doesn't happen often at the offensive coordinator position. You know, if you go out and get a hot shot in college, he's going to want to become a head coach. But if you can get it's kind of reusing guys. Frank Reich, Stanford season's over. Today or tomorrow? Doug Peterson, somebody like that. I'm not saying it can be those two, but somebody like that somebody that does not have the aspirations to be a head coach again. They've done it. I don't know. Brian Dable, again, I heard the stories about what happened in New York, and we know he was on the coaching staff in Alabama that benched Hurts, but his offense looked better with the Giants than this offense right now in Philly. So you need somebody like that. And I get what you're saying. It could be a rash decision. Nobody's going to want to come here. I don't think it's a rash decision. They've given him a chance, and it's not working.
Yeah, and I definitely don't think he's helping the issues. As far as this game goes, to me, this is going to seem like a silly analogy, but I've seen a team like a pickleball team where one person's really good, the other's not as good. And the player who's not as good keeps messing up, missing points, and the guy who's really good gets frustrated. Then there's like a sitter for the guy who's really good, and he tries to take out his frustration with a slam, and he misses it. That's what it's like with the coaches and players now. The second they are put in a good position to make a play, they get antsy and they screw it up execution-wise. So it's a hot potato between the bad play design and the execution, passing it back one from the other. Now, the funny thing is, the Bears couldn't throw it at all. The Eagles had some drives where they had some success through the air. Definitely a little garbage time statistics there. But the Bears, they had a couple plays early on. After that, they didn't get much. Their leading receiver was 4 catches for 33 yards for Luther Burden. After that, it was Zacchaeus for 19.
And, if you think about it, when Ben Johnson and the Bears went to pass the ball, that was helping the Eagles defense. They couldn't stop the run. The first time in 10 years, or this is the most rushing yards in 10 years the Eagles have given up. That was Chip Kelly's defense back then. And Billy Davis ran that defense. It was not good in that last year under Chip Kelly. You gave up 2 100-yard rushers, over 280 yards rushing. Once Chicago realized, and you have to give Ben Johnson a lot of credit, we know the type of offensive coordinator he is. He wants to be flashy. He wants to throw the ball. He wants to get going. He wants to get the ball down the field, and he deserves a lot of credit for just being like, we'll hand it off. And the Eagles just could not stop it. Sidney Brown cannot start. Sidney Brown missed so many tackles. Reed Blankenship, he had a bad game. I am not, if anybody's listening to the Kelly Green Hour, no, I am not a Reed Blankenship fan. And this game did not help his cause in my eyes. He was bad too. I don't know what they're going to do.
14 tackles for Blankenship. I thought he was terrible.
He was awful.
Probably. And I always wait for the tape. This might have been his worst game.
And it's not good when your safety has 14 tackles. He should not be. Right. The linebackers should be leading in tackles.
Linebackers were horrible. I don't understand. Their whole scheme, they play like gap and a half, and the linebackers have to shoot through or you're toast. And they're just like this.
So,
because they are expecting play action or something.
So when the Eagles played Detroit 2 weeks ago, and it was weather like this, it was easy because you knew where Jared Goff was going to be. He was going to be in the same spot. He wasn't going to move around. Caleb Williams, while he's not looking to run per se. He can move around, extend plays with his legs, and the Eagles defense just had zero chance against him. Yeah, they got a couple of sacks. Jalen Carter had one. Nolan Smith had one. So they were able to get after him a little bit, but when they got the running game established and they were able to get to the play action, that was the touchdown to Komet, or Loveland. It was on a play action, and Reed Blankenship took a step up. He was looking at the quarterback and not who he was supposed to be covering. Loveland was able to get by him and score a touchdown. Vic Fangio, I'm not putting this loss on the defense. They played 67 plays on Sunday. They played another. It felt like the first quarter, the Bears had the ball the entire first quarter. They played over 40 plays in the first half. They were bound to just give up points, and it's going to happen. The offense cannot sustain drives. They're too predictable. They're, again, when they line up in certain formations, the defense knows what they're going to do, and they don't ever change out of plays. This is why they need a new voice at the offensive coordinator position. Whether it's somebody from the outside, whether it's Scott Loeffler, whether it's Parks Frazier, I don't know if we go back to Sirianni, but if we went back to Sirianni and Sirianni was successful at doing it again, that would alleviate all we need to worry about hiring a different offensive coordinator every year that's going to get poached. Like, Steichen got poached, Johnson got fired, and Kellen Moore got poached. So, Sirianni's kind of setting up a coaching tree here, sure, but this is why, Ben Johnson calling plays, Sean McVay calling plays, LaFleur calling plays. This is good for them because if they lose their offensive coordinator, they don't need a new voice to the quarterback. And it was said when Sirianni got hired, he's an offensive guy and he'll be able to get this offense going. Well, obviously that didn't work and it hasn't worked. Maybe he learned something over the last couple of years. I get he wants to be that CEO coach, the guy that runs the team, the guy that sets the culture. Well, something is wrong with the culture right now. Try something different. Let him call plays. And if that works, then you have something going forward that you'll be able to, build off of, because you're not going to have to hire an offensive coordinator and fit into Sirianni's scheme. This is because it's obviously Sirianni's scheme. It's don't turn the ball over, which they did twice. The fumble on the tush push was brutal by Jalen. You got to hold on to that ball. And the interception was also brutal, pretty much throwing across your body. Just throw it away, live to play another down. And that's what the Eagles typically do not do. And they did that too many times today.
Yeah. And the worst passing offenses, they all look like this. The quarterback gets the shotgun, and then they start kind of slowly tippy-toeing backwards in the middle of the field and then throw a fluttery pass downfield. Whereas we saw it when they needed, it was like that 3rd and 10. Hurts stepped up into the pocket and delivered a pass with some velocity over the middle. And, the interior offensive line, there's a domino effect where if you don't have any confidence that they'll actually be able to carve out a pocket, then you're not stepping up. But he's terrible when he starts drifting.
And he doesn't have
sorry, God. The only thing I was going to say is, what route concepts are good for plays like that? You need literally an underneath screen type option, then a guy in the flat. You're not going to hit these routes where you're running in a 15-yard stop route while your quarterback's doing this. That's just not conducive to success.
Jalen doesn't have a strong enough arm for that. Did you watch the Packers game yesterday against the Lions? That was a third or fourth down play in the fourth quarter by Jordan Love. Jordan Love, all he does is throw off his back foot, but his arm's strong enough that he's able to get the ball to his receivers downfield. So if you have a strong enough arm, you can get away with that. Jalen Hurts does not have a strong enough arm. There was one throw, it felt like he threw to AJ, I believe. It felt like he threw his entire body into it just to get it through and when you're not, if you have perfect conditions, sure, you can probably get away with that. With falling back. But when it's windy the way it was, you have like it. I think the offense really was hurt when Jalen missed Devontae. He also had Dallas Goedert running down the seam wide open in the first quarter, second quarter, and it was third down. He threw the ball to Devontae, threw it behind him. If he hits Devontae in stride, Devontae scores. Or if he looks to his right, hits Goddard down the seam, he scores. When that didn't happen and they had to settle for a field goal, that's when I was like, uh-oh, we're in trouble.
So it looked like a choice route to Devontae, and kind of the rules are generally if they're off, that converts to like a hook. And then he went into a slant, but the middle was wide open. So there needs, like, to me, when you talk about detail, that's one of their core tenets. You should 100%, both quarterback and receiver need to know, oh, if there's nobody inside and they're off, okay, what does that route become? So they blow that one. I don't even blame, that's the first read in that choice route, and he's reading that side. Missing Goddard, to me, is totally understandable, but not being on the same page with Devontae is terrible. You know, I wrote this in the Discord. The Eagles are running concepts that we've suggested. They are running a lot of same-size shotgun runs. They are getting into empty a bit more. They're running more gap scheme. But, yeah, they just look, the very, jagged edges on their offense. There's no polish whatsoever. Nothing happens in perfect synchronization on the right time, smoothly. It's pulling teeth to get a single yard at times. So, to me, if you're going to point to that a lot of that falls on the coaches. Like, the Bears looked like that even worse last year. They bring in Ben Johnson. Now they're one of the most polished offenses in the NFL.
It's total coaching malpractice. These route combinations are awful. So I went to the Minnesota game, and on the first touchdown, the one where it was on fourth down that Jalen pointed AJ to go deep and throw it, his initial route, I say this all the time, if you look at his initial route, it literally was like a 5-yard out. And he got zero. It was nothing else. It's just like a little, let me be lazy and run out. The coaches, I don't know what Patullo plays are. Did he not learn anything from Kellen Moore? If you look at the routes that are run by AJ and Devontae last year compared to what they are run this year, it's nothing like last year. Kellen Moore at least had them running across the middle, doing different things. When you have a team that's going to play man-to-man, if you run across the middle, maybe you have guys run into each other like happened last week. Now, it wasn't across the middle, but when Quinion and Michael Carter ran into each other on the big third down play in the fourth quarter for Dallas, like, you could force that. You have mesh concepts, just something to scheme your guys open. That's not happening. They run the same. The reason why, and I'm not mad at AJ Brown for speaking out earlier this year, because he was running the same three routes. It's hitches, it's goes. It's like nothing that can use his ability to get open. And I always say, maybe AJ did go behind closed doors to the coaches and say, look, we need to change it up. I feel like we can do this to get the offense going, because all he wants to do is help the offense, right? And maybe the coaches were like, I hear you, AJ. We're gonna put it into the game plan. And he does it week after week after week, and it still doesn't get put into the game plan. That's when he puts stuff on social media. That's when he comes out to the media. I have zero issue with AJ Brown just saying, I want to help the team, because the offense runs better. At least it did in the past when he was getting the ball. Now, should they force feed him the ball? No. Obviously, the running game isn't working right now because the offensive line is hurt and not run blocking good at all. They miss Mekhi Becton. Becton might not have been a good pass blocker, but he was a grader on the run. Tyler Steen is not good. Juergens hasn't been good this year. Dickerson is playing hurt. He hasn't been as good as he was. Mailata has taken a considerable step back. He was, I hate PFF. I think their grading sucks, but I know that last year he was ranked the number one player in all the NFL. He's definitely not that this year. He is taking a step back, like I said. Lane Johnson's been in and out of a lot of games. He's hurt. Fred Johnson is serviceable. He's better than, who did we have out there prior? So, like, he's serviceable out there, but he's not Lane Johnson. That also, having Fred Johnson start hurts our 6-man line because now you have to put a Toth or a Pryor out there, and they're not as good as Johnson. And nobody has talked about it, or if people have talked about it, it hasn't been, talked about a lot. But Jeff Stoutland, you're our run game coordinator. You're a Hall of Fame offensive line coach. What are you doing? Because our offensive line looks like trash. They do not look good. They can't get pushed on the running game. Saquon hasn't been the same as he was last year, obviously, but it feels like every time he gets the handoff, he's got to make a move. And it's very rare that he's just able to hit the hole and go. And also, where the hell was Tank Bigsby today? He averages 9 yards a carry, and I think he was on the field one time. Why?
Yeah. And they're running it just so little. Like Saquon, he had the 10 carries last week, 13 this week. The Bears had 47 carries, the Eagles 17. But mind you, this is not like some dominant Bears run game. They found an exploit with Fangio's defense. They were getting in the way they were structuring, like, the guys on the line of scrimmage. They were getting a lot of these slants from the Eagles to cancel gaps post-snap, and then they were just running behind, basically there's like a target point when you're running zone where this is where the angle the running back is supposed to hit, and then you cut off of that. Well, they were hitting on the backside, so they never even got out to the gap like 9 out of 10 times. And it was a complete exploit. They started to put Byron Young in there. Although he did make that 1 third down play, he's not a good player. At times in the run game, it seemed like Jalen Carter was nowhere to be found. I don't know if he was getting double teamed every single time.
Now, again,
Noah Jomo.
I'm not going to put it on penalties and whatnot and the refs, but it feels like he gets held all the time. They obviously double team him because he's the best player on the defensive line. It doesn't help that Nolan Smith and Jalen Phillips can't get off, get to the quarterback, can't get off blocks. Nobody sets an edge. I know Jalen Hunt had an interception that was he was showing his safety intangibles there. But it felt like just the running game scheme for the Bears, they would motion the tight end, have him cut up field, and take the linebacker whoever's there. The line would wash the offensive line would wash the defensive line one way, and it left a nice cut back lane for Swift and Monungai. Like, their scheme was set up perfect against this Vic Fangio, defense. And I know it's not exactly the same, but we saw what Vic Fangio did against Detroit 2 weeks ago. Like, Gibbs and Montgomery, Gibbs had a great game catching the football, but running it, he didn't have that great of a game. It seemed like Johnson, really scouted that film because it's kind of similar. It's obviously not exactly the same, but he came from there. They kind of still use that system, and he was able to find the exploit in there. And I love Nakobe Dean. He wasn't able to really get off any blocks. Zach Bond wasn't able to get off any blocks. Again, Sidney Brown stinks. He shouldn't be starting. I don't know what they're going to do at safety. I don't want to put Cooper DeJean back there because I like him at nickel back. He's one of the better nickel backs in the corner, and I like the way he tackles. I like his football IQ. But he was also, a show today. He didn't do.
What is going on with DeJean? DeJean was a guy who, for the first, his entire first season coming out, most of the games early on in this season, you're like, this guy is a superstar. All of a sudden, in the last 4 games, it's like, what the heck is going on with Cooper DeJean? Like, he's not making the plays he used to be making. It's very bizarre. And this is a little bit of tinfoil hat stuff, but there was he banged knees really badly with Blankenship, and then he got a hip little thing the next week. I wonder if he's dealing with some nagging stuff, because it's shocking that he doesn't look like a superstar currently.
I do think offenses they'll line him up in the slot, and I think they're taking that slot receiver and either having him go down the field or having him go to the outside to get him away from the action. Has he been perfect? No, but he doesn't seem to be where all the plays are happening in the middle of the
But
field.
I'm talking like in the run
Well-
game, like his coverage is great, but in the run game, you would see times he would like shoot into the backfield and make tackles for loss. Now I see him just getting easily out leveraged, shoved out of the play, and the guy's running down the sideline for 30
I wonder
yards.
if Vic, because Adoree Jackson's not any good, now Sidney Brown is out there. I wonder if he doesn't, because it's easy when you had Makuba back there. Now Makuba's not great, but Makuba's better than Sidney Brown and was really improving. I do wonder if maybe now they have Cooper trying to cover up, if that makes any sense, instead of blitzing off the edge, instead of trying to make a play in the backfield, he has to, instead of taking a step forward first, he takes a step back first to try to cover for them too. Now again, haven't watched any film, don't really know, but they could be just trying to have him cover up for the two, Adoree Jackson, who, has been better. And again, Cooper didn't have a good game last week. I still think that CeeDee Lamb DPI was an OPI. They called an OPI on Zay Flowers yesterday and called the OPI on A.J. Brown today, then that was for sure an OPI on CeeDee Lamb, but they called a DPI on DeJean. Like, I feel like they're using him to mask the other two deficiencies in the secondary. I mean, I've been shouting it. They need to, I know he hasn't played all year, and who knows what type of shape he's in, but they need to sign Justin Simmons. He's got to be better coming off the streets than Sidney Brown is. I don't know.
I mean, there's a lot of guys. Like, if you go down this list, Ojomo was almost completely absent today. Bond, like, I'm not saying he had a bad game, but he usually is all over the field.
And we've had 2 weeks in a row. Last week it was Bond. This week it was Dean, where we had 2 dropped interceptions.
Bond is not looking the same. Bond is not looking the same recently, in my opinion.
I know that missed interception last week against Dallas was big. Dean almost had a pick today against the Bears. That could have been game changing.
Phillips doesn't look like he had that same juice from the first couple games.
I think he got concussed at the end. Did you see him coming off the field, being helped off on 4th down?
I didn't even watch that game and been like, oh, if only we didn't have Sidney Brown in. It had nothing to do with him.
It was
like,
the offense. Again, I don't blame
the DTs were getting blown off the ball. The linebackers, and we were talking about this pregame or before the show, that the way the Eagles play their fronts a lot of times, first off, they don't always cave and go to like heavy personnel to match like some under center scheme. Sometimes they'll just stay in nickel. But one thing is they were getting hit backside because they're trying to slant cancel gaps post snap. But the other thing is the linebackers, when you're playing gap and a half, you have to have the linebackers shoot through the gaps. And for some reason, every time they're showing a replay, the linebackers are like this, standing in place. And then by the time the run gets to their level, it's already 5 yards on the field. And then those guys are bulldozers who are landing forward for 2 to 4 extra yards. Whereas the Eagles, it's like everyone's upright, everyone's moving the backfield. Saquon's stopping when he gets to the ball. There's no downfield momentum.
I'm not blaming the defense for this loss. It's on the offense, because the offense can't stay on the field. What was the time of possession? Like, let me see if I can.
It was right here. So the time of possession was 39 minutes 18 for Chicago to 20 minutes 42.
2-1.
Double.
40 minutes to 20 minutes. Like, eventually, especially 5 days later after playing a game, they're going to tire out. So I am not like the defense. Could they have got forced to turnover? Sure. Could they have given the defense or the offense a shorter field? Sure. But if you remember last week's Dallas game, after the Gibson fumble recovery on the punt, they didn't give up any points. So, like, they didn't lose last week's game. They didn't lose this week's game. The offense just cannot sustain drives. Yeah, the Eagles' offense was 4 of 12, on 3rd down, and the Bears were 10 of 17. They ran 65 plays. It felt like they ran 100 plays. It seemed like they were on the field.
Yeah. The problem is last year, the defense, they were like extremely resilient and would make like miracle stops to continually bail out the offense. This year, it's not happening as much. Like the second half, they've kind of melted. And I agree with you. Like, I don't think they're solely to blame because, and we see this with all bad teams. I'm not saying the Eagles are a bad team, but I'm saying this is in common with bad teams, which is the offense. They have so many quick 3-and-outs and they never flip the field position that it snowballs, and then eventually the other team like gets enough possessions where there's nothing the defense can do, and they're not that super elite level like they were last year. So this is a losing formula. You have this offense that can't sustain drives, like you mentioned, and then a defense that they don't cause enough like havoc between like sacks and interceptions and fumbles and like consistent run and pass defense. They don't do that at enough of a level to overcome that. And so I don't think there's anything the Eagles can do now to like magically fix the problems. If it were just like you sign Justin Simmons, or, oh, you just have someone else call the plays and then magically, yeah, that'd be great. But there's a laundry list of problems. Real quick, I just want to go down this list. So the offensive line, the run blocking has been really bad. And they're not even setting necessarily good interior pockets a lot of times in the pass blocking. The wide receivers, half the time they're locked in. Other times they're just so unconvinced that the concept is going to have success that they just go through the motions. Not particularly great in the yak scenarios. You had the quarterback throwing late. Now he's airmailing stuff, throwing things fluttering, not using his legs enough, not stepping up into pockets, even turning the ball over now. You have running backs who see ghosts because the run blocking is so inept that they're juking nobody, and then instead of hitting the hole hard because there's no faith there. You have tight ends who are terrible at blocking, who are on the field more than any other tight end in the NFL to block. On the defensive side, you have everyone trying to overextend themselves to make up for small other deficiencies, and then it has this domino effect where everyone's worse. What are you going to do to even fix half of those problems?
Well, that's that's the $1 million question, and that's what Nick Sirianni gets paid for. But like, I get you saying that a new play caller won't make a difference. I kind of think it could, depending on who that play caller is. Like, we have somebody who's never called plays before this year, and when they're breaking the huddle with 7 seconds on the game clock, he's not thinking 2 to 3 plays ahead. I say this all the time. You want to, if it's first down, if we're throwing the ball, if it's a completed pass, I want to call this. If it's an incomplete pass, I want to call this. If it's a sack, I want to call this. You should already know 2 to 3 plays ahead. If we're running it, if we get the second down and it's 2nd and 5 and we're running it, if we get the first down, I'm going to call this. If we lose yards, I'm going to call this. If it's 3rd and short, I'm going to call this. It seems like he doesn't know. He doesn't think ahead. He calls a play and just looks. And it's like, all right, let me see what we do on this. And then he's like, all right, I got to call a play. You have a 25-second game clock, 40-second game clock, whatever it is. And the mic cuts out at 15 seconds. As soon as that ball is hit, as soon as the play is dead, you should be in Jalen's ear with the play call. You should be, I don't think Jalen has faith. Now, he's never going to say it because Jalen's not this type of guy. But I don't think Jalen has faith that the play call that is coming into him from Petula is, he's confident in it. Like, even Petula is confident in it. And that's the issue. And it should not have taken till week 13 for Sirianni to realize this. When the offense started struggling early on and no changes were made and penalties are still called and they're still going 3 and out. We have the highest percentage of 3 and outs in the league. Look who's on this offense. Saquon, AJ, Devontae, Goddard. We should not be leading the league in 3 and out percentage. We're at like a 33% clip. That is atrocious. That should not be happening for a team with this much talent. And you need to have conviction in the play calls when you're making them. And I don't know if Patullo has that. And if obviously he's not going to be like, Sirianni can't do that. He's not going to go to Nick's office and say, I can't do this. I'm way over my head, because he's been waiting for this opportunity for a long time. So he's going to hold on to it until somebody takes it from him. Sirianni has to make a business decision, because his job could be on the line. What cost Doug Peterson his job? He did not want Press Taylor. He wanted him to be his offensive coordinator. And Lurie told him, new offensive coordinator, you're fired. And Peterson said, I'm sticking with my guy. He got fired 2 years after winning a Super Bowl. If you're going to hitch your job to Patullo, good luck, Nick. You'll get another job because you're a winner. Because if you look at your record, I mean, you know what you're doing to an extent, with the culture building and the being the CEO type coach. But if you want to stay the coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, you're going to have to make a change. I don't know if you're going to be able to change the entire offensive scheme, but bring somebody. Frank Reich's going to be free this weekend. Even if it's a consultant, bring him in, bring Peterson in, there's got a bunch of guys out there. I doubt Dable would come in because he was just with the Giants, but he has worked with, Hurts before at Alabama. I can't think off the top of my head who else is out, but there are guys, some offensive consultant type guys that you could potentially bring in. Zach Robinson, that's his name, who was the coach of the Titans. Now, I don't know, but at least he has experience calling plays. Just get some, and you're not going to come in here to change the offense, but throw some ideas. Sit down and consult with Patullo or consult with Sirianni, whoever's going to be the new play caller. But if they're going to do it, it has to be this week. You have 10 days before the next game. A mini bye here. If you're going to make the change, if you don't make a change by Monday, you're going to have some pissed off fans. If you go into LA in the first drive, there's going to be a bunch of Eagles fans out there. LA Chargers don't have fans. Their franchise doesn't have fans. It's going to be more than half Eagles fans in that stadium across the country. You heard the boos tonight. The empty stadium by the end. If Patullo is still calling plays and the first drive is another 3 and out, it's going to get ugly for this coaching staff. And if they lose, you're looking in the rearview mirror, who's right there? Because if Dallas beats Detroit next Thursday, I don't know if they're losing the rest of the season.
Yeah. But to me, there's like 4 core tenets of what an offensive coordinator does. One is they're actually coming up with concepts. And I think sometimes people think this is the primary thing. 2 is, when do they actually call them in the game? 3 is practice. So when you're on the practice field, are you going into each player like, oh, this blocker, I want you to look like this on the run action as you're pulling, and the receiver, I want you to be exactly at this and have run your diamond release like this and blah, blah, blah. And the quarterback, I want you to, on your third step, that's synchronized with this route. All those fine details, that's a huge aspect of it. So to me, that's what is missing. People could say, okay, what if you just took the same playbook from Kellen Moore last year and handed it Patullo? Well, first off, you don't have a manual, so you don't know when and why are you calling plays. Because, my previous colleague, Nick, Philly Film Room, he would talk about this often. All of the offenses are running the same concepts. It's just, are they doing it from different formations? Are they doing it from different personnel packages? Are they dressing it up with motions? Are they changing which receiver is which? Are they changing the splits? So there's literally an infinite amount of ways that you can modify these concepts. And I do think, I think the Eagles are below average in that area. But when it's just the finer detail of synchronizing the footwork with the routes and on play action, where are you setting the pocket and where do receivers go during the scramble drill and how do the offensive line on RPOs know not to go downfield too early, all that kind of stuff. And I could go on and on. That is what is lacking Do position coaches, as you mentioned earlier, have culpability? Absolutely, yes. Last year, I would argue that the way the position coaches were contributed to that team, that was absolutely instrumental in winning the Super Bowl. Christian Parker was a huge factor in helping the secondary. Obviously, Stoutland, a huge factor with the offensive line. And there's others, like you could say the linebackers with Bobby King. Clint Hurt, amazing with the interior defensive line. I'm not sure about Washburn. I'm not sure about Moorhead. Jamal Singleton, fantastic
really
with
good.
running back. And I wish I even know. I feel like maybe the tight end coach, that they looks like a poorly coached group, in my opinion. Maybe
Goddard has gotten worse with block. He used to be a really good blocker. And the Eagles did a disservice not upgrading the second tight end position. Like, they should have drafted when they drafted Goddard. Hurts was going into he was 28, I think 28, 29, and they drafted Goddard, and they should have drafted a backup or at least a replacement for Goddard after, like 2 years ago. And maybe they wouldn't have been forced to bring Goddard back. And the Eagles are fortunate. I mean, early in the year, Goddard was really good. Led tight ends and touchdowns with 7, and now he's either behind one or tied with Ferguson, something like that. So they did a disservice not upgrading that position, upgrading CB2. And going back to your point, you were talking about, like, if you were given Kellen Moore's playbook, and my only thing is he doesn't run a play to set up another play. I feel like he just calls a play, watches it, sees what happened, goes, all right, let me. So he doesn't do anything or call anything to where if we run this play and we say we hand it off to Saquon, well, do we have the play in the playbook to where if it's a play action, but everything seems like it's the same, it's going to have to force the defense up, and Jalen pulls it and is able to dump it off to somebody or throw it to somebody.
That's something I wanted to talk about real quick. That when the Eagles check it down, they get 0 to 2 yards. When other teams check it down, they get 4 to 8 yards. It's an absolute sink hole for the offense, because then they're getting behind the sticks. You try a play action, unsuccessful. 2nd and 10, check down. 3rd and 8. Now you're terrible.
They hand it off on
one of the worst third down offenses in the NFL after last year being one of the best.
First down, they throw it. It's an incomplete pass. 2nd down is 95% of the time they're handing it off, get 2 yards, and it's 3rd and long. And it's predictable. It's the same formula every drive. That's why we go 3 and out 35% of the time.
The Eagles ran zone read over and over again last year to success. That's almost completely gone from the offense. And maybe someone would argue, hey, if every time Patullo called a run, it was as successful as the same run that Kellen Moore called, would you have a much rosier view of Patullo? And I think that is a fair argument. I also think Kellen Moore would have been able to do more to overcome that limitation than Patullo, where it's like they kind of are just resigning to the fact that they know they suck at it and they're just going to charge forward with whatever they're doing anyway. The offense, the way it's sequenced, it's almost like juvenile. Like you're saying, there's seemingly no rhyme or reason to anything they call at any time. And even if they do get something working, they then somehow butcher the execution one way or the other.
Or a penalty.
So, like, that's the thing. It's like, obviously the coaches talk about how much they preach this stuff, all of the things, control what you can control, things that take no talent, detail, right? They harp on this stuff, and that is their bugaboo, is all of that, the finer detail stuff. So that is such a weird message of, like, this is one of our core tenets, something that from the very beginning we've always been preaching, and it's a key weakness of the team. Well, how do you explain that?
Maybe now they came into this year, they did not. The message was Super Bowls last year. We're not Super Bowl champs. This is a totally different team. That's true. But maybe they should have embraced it a little bit more. obviously being the defending Super Bowl champions is a lot of pressure. But they tried to avoid that like the plague. And I think that put more pressure on them than they should have put on them. Maybe if they would have embraced it, we're the champs. We got to come in here and play like it. We know we've won the Super Bowl before. We can win it again. But we heard Landon Dickerson say the 2024 Eagles are no longer here. This is the 2025 Eagles. We haven't won anything. We have obviously, the talent on the defensive side of the ball. They've played a lot. I think the defense has played a lot better than people thought with losing Milton Williams, Josh Sweat, CJ, Darius Slay, just losing a bunch of guys that were starters. They had to replace 5 or 6 guys on the defensive side of the ball. And that includes Brandon Graham, who retired and then came back. I wonder how he feels right now with the way things have been going. But the defense is what's keeping them in most games. And losing Kellen Moore, I think, meant a lot, or it means a lot more than we realize. Yeah, he's not doing that great, but that New Orleans team is awful. It's dog crap. Like they're not good. They don't have a quarterback, but his offense looks a lot more. The Giants' offense with Jameis Winston, what they did against Detroit last week looked a lot better than what the Eagles' offense looked like against Detroit. These other teams, I feel like I see receivers running wide open for running wide open for large parts of the game. And then you watch the Eagles offense and it's like pulling teeth to get a yard. And the big difference between this team and last year's team is against the Broncos, even last week against Dallas, we would have won games running the ball. The Pittsburgh game last year, the last 10 minutes on the clock, we killed 10 minutes. Pittsburgh didn't touch the ball. We were able to win that game because we were just able to grind it out. We can't do that now. The offensive line can't run blocks. Saquon, I don't think he's lost a step. I still think he has, the burst and he's able to make plays. But when you have to, as soon as you get the handoff, you have to make a move. That slows down your penetration that you have. So you're going to more times than not get tackled in the backfield. So I think that them not able to run the football, maybe being complacent.
The Bears added 9 points expected value from rushing, and the Eagles lost 4. So the 13 points difference in the rushing games in terms of added value, and the final margin was 9. So if the Eagles could stop the run at an average level and run at an average level, they actually probably would have won the game. Yeah, probably for sure.
It just doesn't probably matter. Would you have kicked the field goal, kicked the extra point, or going for 2 on that last touchdown?
So there's 2 arguments here. I'll lay them both out. One is game theory. Because you don't know if you're going to, if you go for it and don't make it, you know that you have to onside kick it. Whereas if you just kick then you have to go and get 8 and you kick it deep. Now, here's where I think that falls apart, because the math would say that is the better decision to make. The offensive philosophy and the way the game was going with that win, I think you make it an 8-point game. The Bears, they're probably going to turtle up a bit. Now, the run game was effective, but maybe you can stop 3 runs and they punt it and they're feeling fine about their defense. Whereas the Eagles, it's not like they are have dominant 2-point plays. I see them struggle all the time on 2-point stuff, even if they're making it by the skin of their teeth. The concept they drew up looked like it was like a rub play where they had a trips to the right and they kind of have 2 guys kind of angle to the inside, and then you have the guy who's most inside, he runs to the flat, and you're just supposed to pick the defender off and throw. Well, the Bears switched it perfectly. Hurts eats it and then scrambled, and play was pretty much dead. So to me, just the way that game was going, Sirianni continually does this. He says, we're going to put the game on our offense to win, when the defense has been carrying the team for a year and a half. It is very bizarre way to go about it. I would have kicked it because I think they would have got one more drive, and who knows, maybe you just boss Nashawn Wright again or something. There's a chance. I just didn't have confidence they'd make the 2, and then you're playing this ridiculous onside kick it twice. Because let's say it's all valid, right? Well, that means you still need to onside kick it, recover, score, and probably onside kick it again, recover, and score again.
And I get that Elliott missed the extra point earlier, which hurt. It could have been a 10-10 game. It was 10-9, and then Chicago scored 14 unanswered. But I would have kicked the extra point to make it a one-score game, because 2-point conversions are tough. Like, could they have pushed it from 2 yards out? Maybe, but the tush push hasn't worked as successfully this year as it has in the past. And especially when you have a hurt Dickerson and a hurt Juergens, or playing banged up Dickerson and Juergens, you don't want to force it. So I would have kicked the field goal and trusted Elliott to make it.
Well, you know what's so bizarre about it is they're on the end of halves. They're having 20 seconds and multiple timeouts, a couple times during the season. And they say, no, we're just going to sit on the ball and not even go for it. Then you get near the end of the game, 4th and 1 in your own territory. You're going for it because our offense is good and we're going to get this.
Yeah,
put that game in the balance.
Nick Sirianni picks and chooses when he wants to be aggressive. And that's the Sirianni he missed from his earlier, when he first got here. He was ultra aggressive, maybe a little too aggressive that we like, but now he's really I don't know if Dan Campbell going for it on 4th down 5 times a couple of weeks ago got into his head, but he definitely has gone away from being the aggressive Sirianni that, kind of just didn't care. He was like, this is the way I'm going to coach. This is the way I'm going to play. And I feel like the team is kind of noticing that with him and with the decisions that he makes, and that could be impacting them. And that hurts the team. And, did you watch the Saquon documentary that came out a couple weeks ago? Remember in that he said something, I wasn't verbatim, but he was like, when he got cut by the Giants, or he didn't get re-signed by the Giants, and he got signed by the Eagles, he worked out and he had that singular focus. He wanted to show the Giants that they made a mistake. And then he had the 2,000-yard season. The Eagles won the Super Bowl. Like, he pretty much accomplished all his goals in 1 year. Did he come into this year and he got paid? How we make the mistake of giving him a pay raise after just that 1 year? That's a question that we can answer at another time. But is it the same Saquon that we saw last year? The Saquon that we saw last year is lowering his shoulder and running over people. This one isn't. Obviously, the offensive line isn't as good as last year's, but he might not be running with that same passion that he did. He might not be, he got the Super Bowl. He got the Offensive Player of the Year. He got the 2,000 yards, the most rushing yards in a season, regular season and postseason combined. Add and cover. He's got it all. He got the money. What else is there for him to play for? And I don't know if maybe now we saw it when did we get DeMarco Murray? 2014, 2015. He was awful with the Eagles. That his 1 year. We got rid of him. He went to the Titans, and then he looked almost like the Dallas. He wasn't exactly like the Dallas DeMarco, but he looked better. Maybe we're expecting too much this year, and in the 2026, we'll see the Saquon similar, obviously not 2,000 yards, but similar to what we saw last year. I don't know.
Well, before, when the Eagles acquired Saquon, Nick and I went and watched the film extensively and made a video. And as much as we thought, okay, yeah, this raises the ceiling of the offense, makes them a lot less predictable because he can pass protect, run inside, outside, and catch the ball. Those are all fantastic things. He has a home run ability. He can run in short yardage. He had some bad tendencies. And what we're seeing is when he can't get a built-up speed, he's not that good. And what's happening is, as I mentioned earlier, it's a domino effect where even when there is a hole, he's expecting that there won't be, and he starts hesitating or missing holes. And it was all over the Giants film. Missed bad vision, juking players who are not there, mistiming his jukes in the open field. And then we saw him last year. Almost all of those bad habits completely vanished. He was so decisive. Obviously, the holes were great, and he got his built-up momentum. And he wasn't because he got so many opportunities, he wasn't just running into contact or juking people who didn't exist. And I was like, holy crap. We never even seen this level of Saquon before, even in his rookie year. And now we're seeing it. He looks exactly like his last year on the Giants,
I mean, so
That so
Ross Tucker talked about it, and he said that Saquon was like that in college too. He's trying to hit a home run instead of hitting a single, hitting a double, and then that can turn into the grand slam or it turn into a home run. And that, like, there were now I saw still shots from last week. I didn't watch the play, so maybe defenders filled holes. But there was a one run against Dallas. He was going to the left, and he took it to the sideline instead of cutting it up, where he could have got 5 or 6 yards. Like, it's like he doesn't.
Yeah.
He's trying to hit 65 yards because he did that 7 times or whatever it was last year. Instead of, let me get 5 here, let me get 6 here, keep the offense on the field, stop having 3 and outs, and then something will open up, and he can hit the long one.
The perfect juxtaposition was Monagai. He literally was straight as an arrow, like a robot. When he got the ball from Caleb, it looked like he was a Madden player, how straight and upright he was running. And he just went directly in the hole and hit it at max speed. If Saquon ran exactly like that, he would be much better, more effective than he's been this year. Now, he would be less effective than he was last year with that run blocking. But to me, he has to modulate his approach based off the run blocking. And it's bad. And I'm not suggesting that there's some other back who would be dramatically better than him given the situation. But he's not helping it. And more so than bad vision, and there's been a few examples of that, it's been, there's a little crease and he starts doing this bullshit. You just need to go, boom, hit it. Like, they desperately need 6 and 7 yard gains. This offense needs 6 and 7 yard gains more than they need air to breathe. And when you get the ball and start doing this, it doesn't help things. He's a guy where the way he's built, his center of gravity, how much momentum he generates, if he just kind of did a kamikaze pinball low and hard after receiving it, he would probably get 3 or 4 yards almost every time if he ran like that. And so I think there is credence to your theory that he's trying to hit a lot of home runs, and that's causing him to be like, let me press the hole, set up the blocks, and then I'm going to cut, and now there's going to be open space.
I mean, it doesn't help that Tyler Steen's not a good run blocker. Interior of the offensive line is getting 0 push.
They're horrible.
It's not the same offensive line as last year. I don't like Stoutland. He's a Hall of Fame coach. We're getting to a point that he deserves some of the blame too. He's the run game coordinator, and they haven't been able
either
to
they're physically. Yeah, it's weird because I think everyone universally agrees he's one of the best, and so it's like, are the players physically incapable of doing it? Then do you get other players in there? Like, should Matt Pryor be playing or something? No. Okay.
I wanted to see Willie Lampkin. It's a shame that they didn't bring him off IR. He's done for the year. I would have liked to see him out there. Now, I know he's small. He's on the smaller side, primarily a center, but they have him listed as a center guard. I would have been intrigued, maybe put him at right guard and see how that would have worked out. But that's something we have to wait for, next year and see what he can do in the off season, and in training camp. There's not, like, you can't put Fred Johnson anywhere because he's playing for Lane Johnson. So when Lane Johnson comes back, hopefully the season's not over by then. But like when he comes back, maybe try Fred Johnson out at guard. I don't know, because Steen isn't the guy.
As good as Jeff Stoutland is, he's not a miracle cure. Like, the Eagles drafted a bunch of tackles, right? They drafted Cameron Williams. They drafted Miles Hinton. Well, they made a desperation trade for Fred Johnson despite all that. They drafted that McMahon, they drafted Kendall, and they're nowhere to be found.
Yeah, Kendall can't even get active, and McMahon's with the Rams.
Like, they had Kendall Lamb, who actually got starts in places. They had Matt Pryor, who got starts in places. So it's not like he can take anyone, magically put them in, and they're serviceable. That's not the case. So, and the guys that are in, I mean, if they're looking like all pros in the run game last year, the whole left side and center are looking like all pros in the run game. And now they're looking below average as a collective. That has to be they're physically hampered.
Well,
there's literally no other explanation.
If you remember the NFC Championship game, Juergens didn't even start. Dickerson moved to the center, and then he got hurt, and then Juergens played the second half. And
they both missed games this year.
They both missed games. Right. Dickerson had a surgery before the season started. Juergens had back surgery over the offseason. So they're nobody's 100% at this point in time, but they're definitely hurt.
Yeah. Meniscus, that I bet you every single play that meniscus is sore.
And in the back,
like people are like, oh, he'll be back in 30 days. And I'm like, hold on. 30 days with immense pain and inflammation out the ass.
And then the back injury for Jurgens, like when you're running the tush push as much as the Eagles did earlier in the year and did last year.
This episode is presented by State Farm. Having insurance isn't the same as having State Farm. It's like needing the protection of an offensive guard on the football field, but getting an elementary school crossing guard. Sure, they're both guards, but you can only trust one to keep your quarterback safe when the game is on the line. So don't settle for just any insurance when there's State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
This episode is brought to you by Casamigos Tequila. What do you bring to a holiday party? Simple. A bottle of Casamigos. Because nothing gets the party started like a Casamigos margarita, which isn't just for summer. In fact, it's the perfect pour all year round. Casamigos is the gift that always feels right. Because anything goes with my Casamigos. Please drink responsibly. Imported by Casamigos Spirits Company, White Plains, New York. Casamigos Tequila, 40% alcohol by volume.
No one should have to choose between their own safety and their pets. But nearly half of domestic abuse survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Purina is helping to create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters through the Purple Leash Project, so survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit Purina.com/purple to learn more.
Hello, I'm Diane Morgan. If you know who I am, you know who I am. If you don't, who cares? I'm here to explain Italian Time, a holiday phenomenon where Italians throw away their clocks and gather for eternity with San Pellegrino. I've been at this party so long that I've eaten 5 courses, hugged someone's grandma twice, and been offered a job in the family restaurant. So this holiday season, make sure to bring enough San Pellegrino to last you through the meal, the after meal, and the entire goodbye ritual. San Pellegrino, holiday on Italian Time.
Okay, Chad, today you're gonna drive the all-electric Toyota BZ.
But my electric vehicle phobia. I'm not ready, Dr. Ross.
I believe in you.
Oh my gosh. We're inside it.
Try to take deep breaths, okay?
The ventilated seats, they're touching me.
You can do this, Chad. Drive the car. How do you feel, Chad?
I feel cured. Woohoo! I'm doing it! I'm doing it!
The all-electric BZ. One drive can change your mind. Toyota. Let's go places.
How much weight is going on Jurgens? He's the center, and you have Jalen going straight forward, the entire defensive line trying to push at him. That's going to hurt your back. It's not going to help you heal up, and you need more than a week to heal up. And we're talking about a team that played into February last year, had aspirations of playing into February again this year, which could they still do that? Sure, but the way it's looking, who the hell knows? They may be one and done in January. But when you're a team that continually goes to the playoffs, that's why you have to respect what the Patriots did all those years, making all those runs to the Super Bowls, playing deep into the year, and continually doing that over and over and over again. The Chiefs, over the last decade or so, doing the same thing, not including this year. Mahomes has played in the AFC Championship game every year. He may not even make the playoffs this year. It's crazy that Jackson, Mahomes, and Allen all might not make the playoffs. Who would have thought that in the AFC? That's a different story for a different day.
I want to ask you a series of one-word answer questions, yes or no. Do the Eagles have great game management? Do the Eagles have a really healthy locker room from your perspective?
I think yes. Now, you don't want explanation?
How about in the offense?
No. Can I explain? I'll explain it quickly. The yes. I think in the locker room, they all like each other. To the outside world, it may seem like that just because people talk. AJ, all these reports coming out. But I do really think in that locker room, they all care about the players, care about each other. When it comes to the coaching staff, it might be a different story.
Okay, yeah, fair. So do you think that the Eagles are polished and detailed in their offensive execution? Okay. Do you think that their offensive staff hires have been great over the last few years?
One change, so no.
Do you think that their wide receivers have significantly developed skill-wise or with their detail and route execution or blocking or any other attribute?
Am I going to be able to explain my answer quickly?
Yeah.
I say yes, but I just think that the routes that they've been given are crap.
But So all that to say, like, it is a very weird conversation. Like, let's be 100% objective. Approach this like we're aliens coming down the earth and we just discovered football. And we're looking at Nick Sirianni's resume. I see both sides of the argument. I see the side of the argument that said he's been insulated by amazing talent, great coordinators, great position coaches, and he was good enough in the management roles that he didn't prevent the team from winning a Super Bowl, getting to a second. And that has merit, right? And there's a second part there. It goes, he's one of the most winningest coaches all time, won Super Bowl, like right out of the gates. I got to a Super Bowl, amazing at keeping the teams motivated and preaching things that matter, like turnover aversion. And I wonder, where do you fall like on that spectrum? Because there are clear warts. There are problems with the team that he doesn't have the skill set to fix, right? And that's an issue. So where are you going to find the person who can fix those things? Because let's say you think, there's not a lot of people who could do what Sirianni does in his CEO role, and that is highly valuable. And you can have that kind of infrastructure and win a Super Bowl. We've already seen evidence of that. But there needs to be some outside help. I guess, how do you think about that whole conversation?
Well, they did fire Doug Peterson 2 years after winning the Super Bowl. So Lurie and Roseman are not shy about making changes when changes need to be made. That was a lot on Peterson because Peterson wanted to hitch his wagon to Press Taylor as his offensive coordinator. I think that if Roseman and Lurie went to Sirianni and said, you want to keep your job, you have to replace Petulla, I think he would actually replace Petulla because I think he does value this job. We haven't seen, besides the first year, that he was here and he took them to the playoffs. That team in 2021, right? 2021 wasn't that good of a team. And it was coming off of a season in which they went, would they go 4-13 in 2019?
Didn't they play a patsy schedule and they won their last 3 to squeak in?
And they were in last place, I think, third or fourth place in the NFC East, because that was the year that Washington, I think, won the division with a 7-10 record or whatever.
Weren't they 5-8 in that year? And then they won
you talking about 2020,
to make the playoffs?
2020, they did start bad. And then down the stretch, they won 4 or 5 in a row, whatever it was, and made the playoffs, got blown out by Tampa. And that wasn't a great team, but that started the building the culture of winning. Because then the next year they brought in A.J. Brown, they drafted Jordan Davis, and that was the year that they went to the Super Bowl. Because as good as Devontae Smith is and was coming out of Alabama, he needed help. And the offense needed help, and that's where A.J. Brown came into play. So we don't really know, per se, how Sirianni is without a stacked team. And that's where Howie Roseman does deserve a lot of credit because he's doing his job. When people say Jalen only wins because his team is stacked, or how Sirianni only wins because the team is stacked, so do we just not give credit to the GM? Is the GM because the GM is doing their job? I would want my GM, if I'm the owner, if I'm the fan of a team, I want him to go, I'm paying him, or he's being paid to do a job, go out and do it. If you're the Cincinnati Bengals, you have a great offense. You have Joe Burrow, you have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Chase. Their offensive line is crap, their defense is crap. That's on the GM for not going out and improving. And they can't use we're spending all this money on the quarterback and the receivers. $50 million quarterback. $30 million receiver, $25 million receiver, $20 million running back, 3 $20 million offensive linemen. And we still are able to, we afforded Zach Baum. Now, we got lucky with Zach Baum, but we still had to give him a contract. We hit in the drafts with Quinyon and Cooper. Now, this is where things are going to switch for the Eagles. Because right now, the Eagles have the youngest defense, and they're not putting much money into it. Well, that's going to change because Carter's going to get paid. Smith might get paid. Davis might get paid if he continues on the track that he's continuing on. Quinyon's going to have to get paid. Cooper's going to have to get paid. Again, I'm not a Reed Blankenship fan, so I wouldn't give him a contract extension, but they don't have much in the safety room, so they're probably going to have to. So in order to be able to pay all your defense, you're going to have to make changes or make some tough decisions on the offensive side of the ball. This is where, I wouldn't trade AJ, but you never know what's going to happen there.
It's funny. They line up in that spread set, 4 wide, hurry up, and they're just going straight down the field like butter. And then they get in this like condensed half the time pistol, half the time under center, receivers, half of them running hitch routes, Goddard running the most hitch routes any receivers ran in the last 30. The funny thing is with Goddard, he's totally checked out. Like his blocking's not even great anymore. Aloof on the field, terrible personality fit with the current tenor of the offense. And the thing is, when he's in the mode, he's making angry runs and bulldozing guys. So, like, they're shutting out their playmakers. Like, the last 2 games, they kind of force-fed AJ. This game, he had 130 yards and 2 touchdowns. So that narrative's completely over. One thing I want to bring up. Early in the season, the Eagles talked about, we're still trying to find our identity. We're trying to see what works. Then after that, they said, we're backed up. We keep starting our field position inside our own 10, and that's kind of changing our play calls. Complete cognitive dissonance. Then he said, the penalties, we get behind the sticks, we shot ourselves in the foot, we can't make up for it. Now you're going to probably get the wind was a big factor. We went for 2 because of the wind. I guarantee he's going to say that. The excuse making is embarrassing. At a certain point, there needs to be hand-up accountability. I'm not hearing a lot of, this is the specific things that we are not doing well enough.
I mean, the only person
we heard
it from Saquon last week. He took accountability for his play. He's not hitting the hole. He's not doing his job in the fumble.
Right, but he didn't fix it. He ran the exact same
no,
style, except for one run that was successful today, where he actually hit it straight on.
And I think that's like. We saw 14 penalties last week. There was only 7 today, but it feels like when the Eagles have penalties, it's always when they have a big play. They get a first down, penalty comes back. They get an incomplete on the 3rd down, a holding automatic first down on the defense. That's a coaching thing. Like, you have to instill it in the team to play smarter. And it's more of it's just like it felt like last week they said, if we show up, roll the ball out, we're going to win. And obviously Dallas had another thing for them. That's what it feels like. They think that they're so talented that they can just show up and play. And we're beyond that now. This team is not that good that they can just show up and play. You look at the remainder of the schedule. They're probably they might be favored in all these games except Buffalo, but they probably shouldn't be favored in LA. The Raiders stink. If they lose to the Raiders, it's over. You can't lose to the Raiders. And then we have Washington, Buffalo, Washington. You have 5 games left. You're at a point now. We weren't scoreboard watching 3 weeks ago, but now that Dallas is 6-5-1 and Detroit's the toughest game on their schedule, if they beat Detroit, they may finish 11-5-1, which means you can only lose 1 more game to finish 12-5, and that's where the tie could potentially hurt Dallas. But you need to figure this out. We're too far into the season.
I almost feel
that the same things continue to happen over and over again.
And I feel like it's almost irrelevant. Like, we're talking about all this math that needs to happen for the Eagles to just squeak out the division. It's like, what is the future outlook of this team? Like, if that's what you're thinking about from like the core of this team, I think there needs to be something that shifts. I don't know what that answer is.
Let me ask you a question. It's not going to happen because of cap hit. Is Jalen the problem?
Well, and I've watched pretty much, I've watched every single game, all 22, and a lot of times I was seeing, like, early on in the season, because I kind of see it in 3 phases. Early on in the season, Eagles running all the same concepts they spammed last year. Teams are sitting on it. Absolutely no one's open. Wrap in, bow, mesh. They're running the exact same stuff. Nothing's open at all. Well, Hurts scrambling like a madman. And I was like, okay, he's doing what he can with it. When he does throw, he's on target. Good. Then you get into that middle portion, and it was hot and cold. He had some good stretches, a lot of miscues, missing guys. Like 4 out of 5 weeks, they have a deep bomb, easy walk-in touchdown, and for whatever reason, for some reason or other, they're missing it. Passes are not late. Still not great route concepts. Whenever he throws it to the slants or into the flats, it's almost always behind the guy with not a lot of velocity. Now, more recently, you're seeing it's like bad vision, drifting from the pocket, errant throws, throwing into traffic. Like, we're seeing the worst version of him more recently. And so if that continues and it's coupled with losses, that's where you're going to see a lot of criticism. But as I said in the beginning of this podcast, and I can't believe we've been going for an hour 15 after this game, but I just want to put a bow on this. It was something I said in the beginning. To me, the origin source, chicken or the egg, is coaches. No, not good details, random play sequencing, concepts that are hit or miss a lot of times, vanilla or not dressed up well or lack of detail. But then the players, they get so few opportunities that when they present themselves, they get overeager and they screw it up. Or they have some lapse of focus and they shoot themselves in the foot with a penalty. Then sometimes they even call a great concept. It gets open and it's such a rare event that when it gets to make that play, then they mess it up. So it's like a hot potato. The coaching staff passed it over to the players and they went, oh crap, and they passed it back. So really, the culpability is on both parties. That said, if the coaches fix their end of the bargain, I think it would also fix the players' end.
And I know you said changing the play caller won't. I think it would. Now, somebody said in the chat, Sirianni said there's going to be no change at play caller. I think with them playing on a Friday, you know that Lori and Roseman are going to meet with Sirianni tomorrow or Sunday. If they say, hey, something needs to change at play caller, it wouldn't shock me if, now, this might not happen, but let's say they did talk to him and say something needed to change. By Monday, we hear a different tune out of Sirianni because that gives you a week to get a new voice into Jalen's ear. Now, that's where, Scott Loeffler, who's the QB coach who's been working with Jalen all since he's gotten here, he's got that familiarity. Always F that word up. That he's got that with him. Parks Frazier called plays in Indianapolis, I think. So he's done it before. They're obviously not going to change the offensive philosophy, but at least get somebody else that has done it before, can make a rhyme and a reason why you're calling one play to set up another play, because that doesn't seem like it's happening with Patullo. So I still think that we may see a change by next week. If we don't, and we still see the same issues and they lose to the Chargers, Sirianni's job might be in jeopardy. And I know it's crazy to say.
The losses, the Bears, the Giants, the Cowboys, what was the other one?
Broncos. So
they haven't lost to juggernauts. They beat the juggernauts.
It's crazy. They beat the Rams. They beat the
Chiefs.
The Chiefs.
Bucks.
The Bucks. The Lions. The Packers. This is the first NFC team that they lost to that they would be battling with for the number one seed. And now the Rams
they beat all the best teams. All the best teams in the NFL.
Except the Seahawks.
Beat them.
They haven't played the Seahawks, who I still think are a little fraudulent with Sam Darnold, but maybe we'll see them in the playoffs if we make it that far. But yeah, and I think the wins, and a lot of people are saying it, and it makes sense. The wins were masking the issues, and now that we're losing games, that noise is becoming louder.
So I want to address this. In the presser, Sirianni said he's not changing play callers because he doesn't think that Patullo is the main reason. Does he realize this is a logical fallacy? Okay, you're trying to have the best situation possible. This is a core tenet of competitive sports, is every decision you make is in the effort to maximize your chance of winning the Super Bowl, right, in football. And he says, because Patullo isn't the main reason, I'm not going to change play callers.
But he is a reason.
Nobody asked about that, Nick. And granted, I didn't actually hear this question, but that doesn't make any sense at all. If he is a reason and you could improve that, why does it matter if he's the primary reason? That doesn't make sense. If you're the secondary reason, you can't be changed. If you're the tertiary reason, you're immutable. Only the number one reason is the thing that can be changed. It makes no sense. I don't know if I'm being pedantic, but it's a ridiculous logic. Like, what if it can be improved, you improve it. You don't just say, because it's not the primary reason, now I'm not going to improve it. What do you think of that?
No, that's why I do think that if Lurie and Roseman do actually sit down with him and they're concerned, because Lurie, they can't be happy with the way the offense is looking. Like, they cannot be happy with the way it's looking and with the way they've played. The mantra, we talk about it, tough, detailed, together. They weren't tough tonight. They gave up 280 yards rushing. So that's on the defensive side of the ball. But the offense is still getting beat up. They didn't give up sacks, but still, they can't run the football. They let the defensive line for Chicago control the line of scrimmage. Detail, penalties, turnovers. The second play of the game, A.J. Brown false starting. Why is the receiver false starting? That can't happen. So again, that's on the coaching staff to instill in these guys. Look, the snap count. You should know the snap count. And the last one, together. I still think in the locker room the players are together, but I think there is starting to become a separation between the players and Patullo and again, Fritz will never say anything bad about anybody because that's not him. He's going to take the blame on himself. He's going to just say we need to improve this, that, and the third. But he's never going to throw a coach under the bus. Now, one time, before last year, they had a press conference before camp or whatever, and they asked him about Sirianni, and he didn't say anything. He got better at that.
Well, how about Patullo? They asked him about Patullo. He said, "Oh, that's not Kevin's role."
Yeah,
that's not him.
When they were looking for an offensive coordinator, and then he gets the role. Again, there are signs that the trust isn't there between Patullo and the offense. And it's shown every week. And Sirianni is blind to it because Patullo's his guy. It's going to take Lurie and Roseman pretty much saying, you got to get rid of him or get somebody else to call plays, or you're going to be going too.
I mean, it is a strange world to see guys who are yippee-ki-yaying, don't have answers to like basic schematic things within football, have tendencies that are way off the charts in every single graph, and then they're like winning Super Bowls. It is just funny to see. And it really gives these people who will never criticize the coaching staff no matter what happens, it gives them ammunition because they can just point to the wins. And as you mentioned earlier, once those stop coming, there's not a lot of things that they can point to. So, one last thing I wanted to say is there was a part in the Eagles season last year, just before midway, where they were getting gifted game after game by the referees, in my opinion. And then it completely flipped on its head and they were getting screwed game after game and they lost one game in there. But it is weird. It does seem like that is happening again. So be on the lookout. If the Eagles referee luck starts to turn around, maybe after the next game going into the home stretch, I actually wouldn't be surprised by it. And they could really use it at this point. Because, it has been very erratic in the penalties over the last few games. But, going forward, I don't know if we put the 3 words on Twitter, but let's get out of here, LJ. What's your 3 words to encapsulate this game or the Eagles season at large?
On the brink.
Need a miracle. That's my 3 words. And I'm genuine about this. I'm trying to theorize about what they could possibly do to fix the issues. Like, remember, they don't need to fix everything to actually be a true contender. I think there's a path where they get a little bit better in the run game and they shoot themselves in the foot a little bit less on offense. And the pass rush surges again. And then, they're right there. I think that's possible. But I also think, look at, there are so many issues across the entire team. Adoree Jackson wasn't even an issue tonight. And everyone, we're panicked about starting him. And they still give up 250 yards on the ground. And he was not even a factor.
I think the panic with Adoree Jackson is when we go up against a team with good receivers. Dallas, or
100%.
You're not going to always go up against CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, but when you do go up against that type of caliber receiver, you can see the glaring weakness that he is out on the field.
So, last thing I'd like to ask you. Do you think, common sense would dictate Fire Patullo because it can't get any worse, and you might as well try something else to see if a miracle happens. Or, in my opinion, the reason to not fire him is ego. The last time they tried this during the season, it was a disaster to putting in Patricia, and he was even worse than Desai. And so they might not want to do that because the optics, if it fails again, they'll be like, oh my gosh, you already made that same mistake. Howie always talks about this, making the same mistake twice. That's something that eats at him more than anything else. And so that's why I think they're definitely not going to fire Patullo. If anything, they might do like a silent, someone else starts to take more authority in the offense, but we never hear about it. I could see that happening.
We won't hear about it, but you'll definitely know when the camera pans to him on Monday night next week, and he's not the one with the play sheet in his hand. That's when we'll know.
Yeah.
They won't fire him, but they're going to demote him.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, like, you could almost say this is like something that you could see months coming away. Like in the offseason, they're handing out free money to like Saquon and Lane and guys for absolutely no reason other than to reward them. They're letting them buddy promote to OC, even though you have the most attractive OC job in all of sports. I think there was a little bit like a lack of urgency with some like the way they've managed these things. Then they tried to like patch it up by making a zillion trades during the season, which may or may not be bearing fruit.
Yeah, Jalen Phillips has been inconsistent since he got here. And they won the Super Bowl. They had the pick. They didn't have the pick of the litter when it came to getting offensive coordinators because Kellen Moore left after we won the Super Bowl. And a lot of the staffs were already built. It's not like they could have gone and gotten Josh McDaniels or somebody like that. Now, if Mike McDaniel gets fired, I know people don't like, he's not going to be the head coach. I think if he's just running the offense, he's fine. He won't have to set the culture. He won't have to run the whole team. Let Sirianni do that. I can see that happening. I can see if McDaniel gets fired by Miami and the Eagles have a quick playoff exit or don't make the playoffs, which that would be a fireable offense for Sirianni if for the second time in 3 years they pretty much blow the second half of the year. They're not going to allow Nick to hire the offensive coordinator. Lurie and Sirianni, and again, there is no salary cap for coaches. Go and pay them as much as you want. But McDaniel gets fired, you bring him here to run the offense. Now, the only caveat with that will be, did he and Vic Fangio get along? Because if they didn't get along, it's not going to happen because Fangio pretty much is the head coach of the defense. Unless he's retiring, he's not going anywhere. He's still going to run the defense. If there was no issues there, personal issues there, you bring in McDaniel, let him run the offense. Sirianni does his thing as this culture setter and whatnot. But for the rest of this year, I'm letting Parks Frazier or Scott Leffler call plays. Unless Sirianni wants to do it. But we've seen how that went.
Maybe. I'd probably try Leffler just to see what happens. I think Parks Frazier would be terrible. As far as OCs go in the future, I do like this guy out of Oregon, Will Stein.
I think I would go with a college guy, but it's going to be the same thing. He comes here, he sets the offense ablaze, he's going to be a head coach in a year or two. McDaniel might be, I don't want to say he's going to be blacklisted, but with what went down in Miami.
That's okay, though. That's okay. Like, in my opinion, you go for upside, right? Because what's the alternative? The alternative is an internal hire who's never called plays before, who is showing that on the field.
Well, that's why I say McDaniel, because I don't think that he's going, maybe, I could be wrong, but I don't know if he's going to be touted as a head coaching candidate within
I hear
years. You have somebody here that could be with Jalen or whoever the quarterback's going to be, and I think it's going to be Jalen, obviously. You have him with more than a year or two. And that's why you go, like, if you get a young guy from college, obviously he wants to be a head coach, whether that's in college or the NFL. And if whoever you get, if you got the guy from Oregon, if you tried to pay Lincoln Riley a crap ton of money, like pay him coach's money to be the offensive coordinator, if he sets the offense on fire, somebody's going to hire him to be a head coach. I don't know if a team would, after seeing what McDaniel did in Miami and how things faltered there with him as the head coach, they might second guess that at least initially. So you could have him here for 3-4 years potentially.
Yeah. I hear you. Now, I do worry about the culture fit. I think someone who's like that aloof pothead type guy in Philly, if he starts running that razzle dazzle BS and it goes for -9 yards, they're going to want his head. So it would have to work. Like if it didn't work, it would be an absolute
I do think
disaster.
fans would be excited that we see something different. Like you see motion from the receivers.
Yeah, but that wore its welcome with Chip Kelly pretty fast, didn't it?
It did. It worked for a year. That first year was amazing.
Well, that's the same problem with the college coach whiz that you bring in. Like I'm at the point, like, let's say you're like, all right, we're the best run organization in sports, and you want to bet on that? Well, we're going to bring in this college guy. Well, if he gets poached in 1 year, screw it. We'll go back in. The Bucks did it. The Bucks had Liam Cohen, amazing, left. Like if I was the Bucks, I would have got rid of Todd Bowles. And this, I'm not kidding about this. I said this in the offseason. I would have got rid of Todd Bowles and made Liam Cohen my head coach. He went to Jaguars. They brought in Grizzard. Now, he's no Liam Cohen, but he's a lot better than Patullo, right? And so if you really want to bet on that, your ability to find talent, run that carousel every single time. Just bring in a new guy and make it happen. But there is merit to what you're saying as well. The thing is, though, like a retread, a guy with his personality, if that doesn't work, it would be a nightmare. So, all right. Well, we definitely talked 3 times as long as I expected. I appreciate a lot of you guys stayed around to talk. Hopefully this was a bit of therapy for you. We covered a lot of ground. So, who knows? Well, I think at this point, we're just going to let's see what happens. Maybe they announce something in the news, like there's some shakeup in the offensive staff room or something. I think Eagles fans at the point where, they're past the point of panic. They're resigned to the fact that this team, they have these issues and they're probably the Achilles heel. So I do think there's a little bit less of that, like, panic stuff because it's just out in the open now. And at this point, it's like you're just building kind of from the ground up. Like, and how are they going to approach that? I don't know. Are they going to hope that everything the stars align and all their problems go away? Or are they going to make a move to try to shake things up? Let me just ask you that to wrap this up. Like, do you any kind of move? It could be anything, like personnel wise, they change a starter, they promote a guy in the staff, they have a players only meeting, anything along these lines, or no, they're just going to go ahead and what do they say every single week? We got to execute better. We got to be on the same page and control what we control, things that take no talent. Is it just going to be that the rest of the way?
I do eventually think there's going to be a change at the offensive play caller position. Will it be this week? I think this is the perfect week to do it. You have 10 days. Because then you have a short week going into the Raiders, short week going into Washington, because I think they play Saturday. The first Washington game's a Saturday, so that's a short week. So this is the perfect time to make a change. Again, the offensive philosophy, the offensive game plan, the offensive system's not going to change, but maybe a new voice, somebody that sees the game differently, somebody who's done it before that's going to think 2 to 3 plays ahead will be better than what Patullo's doing. Leffler, probably. Frazier, maybe. I know you said you don't like him. He can't be as bad as Patullo.
Yeah, no, I like Scott Leffler. Like everything I've heard about Leffler is good.
Or if they bring in a Frank, because we know that Sirianni loves Frank Reich. Stanford season's over today, tomorrow, whatever that is. Yeah. It's Leffler, Frank Reich to be a consultant, Dable to be a consultant, Peterson to be a consultant. I do think that the offensive play caller is going to change.
And this is 100% something that is, well, Kurt Warner straight up said he would be willing to be an offensive consultant for the Eagles.
He said that?
He said that. He said that to me.
I would take him.
So I'm kind of the belief that they're just going to roll with what they got. And it's like, I'm thinking about myself in the future, like looking back, are you going to think we just stuck with Patullo and that was a great move and it eventually clicked? Or no, they made that desperation change up, but magically it worked. Like to me, that second thing I mentioned there, that has a higher chance of working. I don't envision a future where Patullo remains the arbiter of this offense and they win the Super Bowl. I can't envision that future.
If he lasts the rest of this year, he's not the OC next year. I'll put it that way. But I think that,
unless they win the Super Bowl.
I guess so. I think Roseman has and Laurie have put so much into this team that they're going to want to change. So they're going. Look, if they meet this week by Monday, it wouldn't shock me if Sirianni's tune changes.
If they do change, it'll be Sirianni, in my opinion.
We've seen
Because
that
that's
before,
the thing
though.
that makes, like, if you're looking about it from an organization, that's the thing that makes them look the least bad. And I think that's actually how they would make that decision.
It's also the thing that you want to work, because if Sirianni calls the plays and it works, you don't have to worry about this carousel at offensive coordinator, because Sirianni's the one calling the plays. That's, like we mentioned it. McVay, LaFleur, Dan Campbell's now calling plays. You have all these offensive guys. Ben Johnson, Brian Schottenheimer. Like, it's ridiculous. We all made fun of Dallas for hiring Brian Schottenheimer. Look at his offense now. So if Sirianni can succeed at calling plays, that makes this conversation we're having mute. We don't have to worry about an offensive coordinator because he's the one calling plays. He's the head coach. You ain't going to replace yourself, or you're not going to take a job elsewhere. Maybe you would, I don't know. But you've been to the Super Bowl twice here, and if you can successfully call plays, then that's what I think the organization wants. That's what they would want, so that you don't have to worry about replacing an offensive coordinator year after year after year. But I don't know if it's going to work, because we've seen...
There's just one, I know, just one problem. He can't do it. It's like, it felt silly at times last year being like, Sirianni can't fix the problems with the passing game because he doesn't have the football acumen to do so. And like, then people can be like, look, Eagles put up 100 points in the last couple of games. You're an idiot. Sirianni's a genius, blah, blah, blah. If you look at the totality of the evidence across all his seasons, it is very clear that he is not an offensive genius. He doesn't, like, when they had problems with the blitz, he didn't have the answers to that. Kellen Moore had the answers.
I say that this is his system, but I think he only has one philosophy. Don't turn the ball over. We've seen it the last two. They lost the turnover battle today. They tied the turnover battle last week, and they lost the games. But when they win the turnover battle, they're 40-2. So he's like, if you don't turn the ball over, we're going to win.
And the funny thing is, I think he kind of stumbled into it. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but I didn't hear him talk about it ad nauseum every single week early on. But then they had like that year where Hurts was throwing a zillion picks, the terrible one in Seattle. And then all of a sudden, a lot of more talk about turnover avoidance. Then they start winning and winning. They win the Super Bowl. They have the best turnover margin in playoff history on their way to win the Super Bowl. Is his obsession warranted? Yes. But does he offer things beyond that? Not really. Where's his help in the run game? Completely non-existent. Does he help the offensive line in the blocking? Completely non-existent. Does he help the wide receivers in their route execution, the route combinations, their blocking? Absolutely not. Does he help them not commit penalties? Absolutely not. Did he help them beat the blitz? Absolutely not.
So what does he do? That's the big question. Because the culture doesn't look good right now.
All the good things about the offense, like they brought in one of the best 5 run blocking offensive linemen assembled in the last 3 decades, with one of the most explosive running backs behind him, and any play they called worked pretty much amazing. Then they would get called man coverage and single high because teams want an extra guy in the box. Well, then you have your all-star receivers outside one-on-one, and you throw it anywhere in the vicinity and they win. None of that takes football genius, but the stuff that does is not there. The effective use of motion, the play sequencing, constraint plays, scaffolding, marrying the run and pass game, having the footwork match the routes, having the scramble drill execute appropriately, all that kind of stuff. It's not there. So that's where they desperately need that innovative offensive mind who is like a stickler for details and helps the offense look like they have polish. They had it kind of last year in Kellen Moore. I wouldn't call him an all-timer, but he was definitely above average.
He also,
they went from
Sorry, I was going to say he also went.
I was just only going to say they went from above average to one of the worst in the entire league, and they're not good enough to overcome.
Kellen Moore was able to switch up what he wanted to do. He wants to pass the ball, but obviously the first 4 weeks didn't work. Jalen was turning the ball over. After the bye week, they went to primarily a running team, and they ran up to the Super Bowl. So he was able to adjust. That's something Patullo has not been able to do, is adjust. So I don't know what's going to change, but something does need to be changed. And I do think it will be the play caller. I just don't know if it's going to be evident. Like, he's not going to come out and say it because obviously you don't want to, he likes to, he doesn't want to give a competitive advantage. He's not going to tell us what he's doing so that the Chargers know about it. But it wouldn't shock me if we get to Monday and somebody else is in the ear of Jalen Hurts calling the plays.
A lot of people have stuck around, so we really appreciate it. We're going to sign off now. I know I've said like last thing I'll say like 5 times now. But one of the things I did want to mention, okay, yeah, we're getting this comment, too late to bring in a new guy. And I definitely hear that. Is if there is one panacea for this team, it's if the offensive line all of a sudden looks like they did last year. Then you can start doing all these run concepts. Maybe you start to give Hurts, take the governor off with his running. You have more time with your play actions. That actually could come together. But Jurgens, Dickerson, they need to heal up. Mailata, he can play better. Then you get Lane Johnson back. So there's a chance there, but it's a really low probability that it's all going to come together. But at this point, we can just hope for the best. Regardless, we're going to be here to bring you all of your Eagles analysis. So we really appreciate everyone who's stuck around and anyone who consumes our content. LJ, do you have any departing thoughts?
They better figure it out soon, because if they don't, they're not going to win. They're going to blow this division. And we couldn't fathom that 3 weeks ago. It looked like it would have been over. They had a chance to pretty much end it if they could have beat Dallas last week and win this week. But now it's a lot closer than we like. And now we're going to be sweating the last month and a half of the season.
All right. Well, this was another episode of Eagles Pinpole Network Postgame Live. Appreciate everyone coming by. Until next time, go Birds.